Hey everybody, welcome to the Carolina Geek Podcast, and as we finally come around to it, we're going to be doing the Babylon. We're going to be doing watch-alongs here. We've actually done a couple before, but I didn't really like them, so we're going to be testing. This is the first test run of the format for the watch-alongs, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be basically watching along and giving you my impressions as the episode, or this case, the pilot goes on. And this is just a test of it, and we're going to see how it goes. This is the pilot that came out in 1993. Of course, for those of you who know, Mira Fallon passed away yesterday. Unfortunately, actually happened Thursday night. And I'm kind of going to dedicate this to her. If there's anyone that was the heart and soul of the show, she definitely was. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have to turn it down, and we're going to start right now. And let me turn it down because I don't want to get copyright violated. All right. Now this is going to be the TNT original opening. The music that Christopher Franck. Now, the original pilot had the guy that was in the police, whose name I can't, Stuart Copeland. His music, which I actually kind of liked in the pilot over this stuff, because it kind of set it apart a little bit. So, and the changes are obvious. The uniforms aren't quite the same. The lens look, of course, dramatically different than it was during the series. We'll come to that in a moment. A lot of the stuff that was not in the original pilot is in this. The TNT version of it has been shown in this. They kind of, quote unquote, improved it. I kind of wish they would bring the original pilot so we can compare and contrast. And there's Tamlin Tomita, who plays Laurel Takashima in this pilot. She never came back for the series, and that was kind of a shame because I really would have liked to have seen what became of her during the series. Same thing with Dr. Kyle coming up. Those two left along with Lita after the pilot. We all know what happened with Lita, but Dr. Kyle and Laurel Takashima, we never found out anything beyond a couple of things that Franklin said about them going back to Earth. We don't know, like, which side that they were in the Civil War and all of that. So it's interesting. Laurel Takashima was recently in Star Trek Picard, and she's also in the Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid sequel miniseries. I think it's on Netflix now, where Ralph Macchio's character. I'm not a big fan of Karate Kid, to be honest with you. I didn't really dig the movie. And here's a little something. The usual trope about you might not want to bang other alien species because you don't know. The Arnasian, they eat their mates and all that. Well, depends on, if she's hot enough and you can get away fast enough. You might want to shoot your shot. There are a couple of people in here that I'm going to point it out later on when he shows up. There's Del Varner, which was a big deal in the pilot, but never obviously came up in the series. There's Garibaldi. Jerry Doyle, rest in peace. One of the other great characters on Babylon 5. He was one of those guys that really made you feel. You could have taken Michael Garibaldi's character and brought him to the modern day and plopped him down in any city, made him a cop. He would be completely relatable. You believed he was a cop. You understood. He was the touchstone of the series. To me, Mira Furlan was the heart and soul of the series. Jerry Doyle's character, Garibaldi, was the touchstone of the series. Kind of you can relate to this guy. You've known guys like that. You've known cops like that. You've known people you've worked with like that. All right. the pilot hasn't aged as well as the series has, you know, and that's the important thing to remember about pilots is they're test runs. There's always going to be changes. Now you know the uniform, the changes. You see if there's a lady there that you later see the lady that gets taken hostage. She's actually later in the observation dome as one of the officers. And there's another one later on that you'll see, and that's a major part of the TV series coming up. You kind of know if you know, you kind of know, but I'm kind of wait till he gets there. But the lady that just got taken hostage is one of the officers, and I don't know how many episodes she was in. I think she's in the first season. I think she was also in the second season. But I think after the third season, she's not there anymore. So I can't remember her name right offhand, but there's Michael O'Hare. And when we do the first season watch along, I'll talk more about my impressions of him. He really, to me, seemed more of a diplomat than a soldier in this case. And I think part of the reason he was placed there, although not the entire reason, was he was more of a diplomat than a soldier. He could do the soldier thing, but he was seen more of a diplomat, I think, by myself. I thought he was more of a diplomat than a soldier. And he was a good contrast to Ben Sisko on Deep Space Nine, who was more of a soldier than a diplomat, which made that show. And I'm going to get to the comparisons between Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine down the road. And yes, we'll probably have a watch-along as well. And you notice the uniforms obviously don't have that leather thing that goes down the front lapel that you see in the series. I really like these uniforms better slightly. The uniforms in the series were good. It's just this looks more like a military uniform. And I think that sets it apart. There's no guardrail there in that little circular thing, and the little light was kind of annoying, which I think I'm glad they took that apart. But you know, that's an OSHA violation. And there's G'Kar. Let's face it, everybody loves G'Kar. The great ascendancy of G'Kar. He from the very thought you thought he was going to be the bad guy, the big meanie, the big villain, and all this. We all know that kind of change as the series goes on, and that's what makes the series so great. Is the fact that line he says, "You think you know," or something along the lines of people are not as they seem to be. You think you know somebody, and it turns out you don't really know them at all. And Takashima, I really would have liked to see, not to replace Ivanova. Ivanova was one of the best characters, and that was really, it would have been hard to see that series be as good as it is had it not been for Ivanova. But I would have liked to see Takashima as a captain of a ship during the Civil War, kind of debating whether or not she wants to join Sheridan or remain loyal to Clark and all of this. Or just come back in the fifth season, or maybe even have her come back as the commander, instead of Tracy Scoggins, and we'll get to that in the fifth season. I'm the opinion that Tracy Scoggins did a good job. Now we have the Alien Sector coming up, and we've got Pat Tallman playing Lita with the short hair, looking good. Now, in between Pat Tallman doing the pilot and Pat Tallman coming back to the series, she had a kid. And hard to believe that kid's actually a grown guy now. If you read her book, and I highly recommend you read Lita's book, Pat Tallman's book, and Claudia Christian's book. They both were great. Unfortunately, I've lost both of them over the years. Had moved and lost them, unfortunately. I got to get them back. But Pat Tallman still looks fantastic. She's 62 now, and she looks amazing, It's hard to believe in this. She was actually in her 30s at the time. When you get older, you realize when you look at stuff like this, in this picture right here, where you've got in O'Hare's Sinclair's office, only one person in this scene is actually still alive. That's Talon Tamita. O'Hare's dead. Doyle's dead. Johnny Seca's dead. It's hard to believe it's 30 years in 2 years' time that this pilot was aired. Really 30 years, I think, next year when they did the pilot. Hard to believe. Of course, this is the Vorlons, and the Vorlons were the mystery race that I think would have become, I really would like to get the original, the 15 volumes of that book, and it really bugs me that they had such a short, small print run of those books, because at the time they were being released, I couldn't get them because my mom was passing away, and I couldn't afford them because I had a bunch of other stuff to do. And I really wish one day they either republish them, or either in print, or my preference electronically, to make it cheaper. And now we've got that ship docking. You'll understand soon enough. And Delenn comes to the fore. God bless you, Mira. Safe travels to the rim and all of that. Dang, that hurts. It really does. They've all hurt, but this one's the toughest one to take. And here's Delenn the first time, and you're going to notice the big change from the series is that she looks rather masculine. There's a reason for that, was because the original plan was for Delenn to go from being a guy full Minbari to a girl half Minbari, half human. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. They were even going to change her voice, and that really bothered Mira. And I got to read through the books again. This is just a test run, folks, so I may go back and do this again. And of course, this builds a relationship between Sinclair and Delenn. And I got to read. There are a lot of fans who've read those script books and such. They can tell more about it. But I get the impression that had Michael O'Hare not had the problems he had, which led him to leave after the first season, that a lot of what we were seeing between Sheridan and Delenn would have been Sinclair and Delenn. Although it was always going to be that Sinclair would be Valen. So, and even though they made her character, the look of Delenn in this pilot look masculine, you can tell there's the feminine part, and I'm kind of glad they kept that in there, because it made it was alien but relatable, And that's what some sci-fi folks, some prospective sci-fi artists tend to forget is, they want to make aliens really look alien, but at the same time, you have to kind of make it look kind of relatable. Because if you don't, people are going to go, well, I don't understand that. You have to kind of make it to where they can sort of kind of understand it, to where you keep their interest to where they can eventually understand it. That's just me. And I've written my fair share of short stories over the years and whatnot. But she does have that masculine look to this character, and but there's obviously the voice is female. So you kind of look at it as the character kind of transgendered here somewhat, but I think she's more of a female in this than anything else. But I really am glad they didn't go down the original path, because that would have been a little much, in my opinion, because I think it would have hindered the story to a degree, because it would have... Oh! here's, well, it's not Morden. The Vorlons are going to show up early. Surprise! Or in Gomer Pyle terms, surprise, surprise, surprise. Although the Vorlons probably never do that. But yeah, Morden, although it's not Morden, Ed Wasser's character, Ed Wasser shows up. He's a bridge member on here, but he's named, I think he's Guerrera. And it's interesting to see. This isn't Morden, because Morden's already on Zahadum and about to be transformed by the shadows along with Anna Sheridan. If you've read the book, and I cannot think of the name of the book, it's the seventh novel. It's the one where Sheridan has a military inspection and all this, and he's supposed to meet his wife. He can't meet his wife, blah, 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 blah. And it basically, the bulk of the novel is, and here's Sinclair, and is this when his girlfriend shows up? No, he gets a call. Oh, look at how small those displays are compared to the series. There's his girlfriend. Blair Barron is the lady who plays the character. I wonder why they decided to just axe this and bring back Catherine Sakai for the series. You know, was it availability? Because Blair Barron's a nice-looking girl. Not anything against Julia Nixon. Trust me, I like Julia Nixon too. It's just that, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because was this just a fast, glows hot, grows cold pretty quick thing? But, and here we go with another G'Kar scene. And, of course, there's the manipulation right here. He's now apologetic. You know, G'Kar being the sly politician that he is. It's interesting to note. Oh, heck. I'm having issues with it again. Hang on a second. Now here we go. That may crop up from time to time. So if you're doing this by time, I'll try and let you know when it skips a little bit. I've got this. Like I said, this is a test run. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this to where I don't have these issues. I live out in the boondocks. Internet speed is not the greatest. I'm actually using another cell phone I've got that I strictly use for streaming, to where I can do this, and sometimes it's not perfect, but you know, I'm figuring it out. And Londo shows up with the interesting hairdo. And we also see Londo's gambling addiction. And the casino looks more like a casino in the pilot than it does during the series itself. The Londo costume looks pretty much the same as it was during the series. And the look of it looks so 80s in this. It looks so 80s in this. And I think the great thing about the series was it looked more 90s than 80s. This was more of an 80s take. And, you know, this is probably why I think the great thing about the pilot is it shows you the differences between the pilot and the miniseries, and not miniseries, but the series itself. Is that, and here's another pause. I may have to change things up a bit. Let's see. Here we go. We're back on. Like I said, this was a test run. We may end it early. I may redo this. So, and of course, we find out later, I think during this miniseries, that Garibaldi is a recovering alcoholic. He does not go anywhere. There's Del Vonner. here's the interesting thing about it. The fashions right now, they're trying to be almost too futuristic. They're almost going back, in some cases, going back to the past for the future. You can kind of, if you look around the casino, you can see some ideas of 20s, 30s fashions and whatnot to kind of give that retro futuristic feel, somewhat. Yeah, that's interesting to say the least, because these are, and of course Del Varner. This is I don't think this is actually Del Varner. And of course Londo's trying to get Del Varner to cover his bets. Now, it's interesting to note that Londo is broke for the most part during this. And that sets him up for Morden down the road. And of course there's Universe Today. Why we would still have newspapers in the 23rd century is beyond me, but we'll see that. And you've got an Arab guy and an African guy, I guess, because I think I'm not sure what tribe that would be in Africa. And of course you've got Lita doing the telepath thing, which is negotiations and all that. I really would like to have seen more of this during the show, in the diplomatic sense, And there's something struck me in the fourth season, and this is gonna be some spoilers. We're gonna jump ahead a little bit. This is a test bed, so I can do this. It's my podcast. I can do whatever I do what I want. Why didn't they use Lita for after the Shadow War was over with, and it stopped again? So I'll let you know when it starts up again. Why didn't they use her more for their purpose? There are so many things they could have used her for after the Shadow War and paid her a good salary and all this. They just cut her loose. And that's one of those things that doesn't make any sense. And the only thing I can think of is that it's they wanted to exploit kind of that discrimination against telepaths. We'll get more to that in a later time. And now, of course, this is the scene that doesn't pay off until the 5th season, where Lita Alexander and G'Kar have their little discussion. And for those of you who have read Pat Tallman's book, you understand what the 5th season scene was, where G'Kar talks about pain threshold here, and or pleasure threshold, I should say. And Pat Tallman's character, Lita Alexander, the 5th season, replies to him 5 years later going, "I have no pleasure threshold." In the immortal words of Hedley Lamar from the movie Blazing Saddles, Keen. I'm struck by watching this. Pat Tallman's look is very much of an 80s short haircut, 50s look. And I really would like to have seen what life was like from Lita from the time she left the station the first time till the time she came back. And, that's one of those things we really need some books to fill that in. And we're going to talk from time to time about the reboot, not to reboot. And you can clearly see that Laurel Takashima is very competent, very much in charge. But she was to Sinclair what Ivanova was to Sheridan. And it would have been interesting if Tomita had come back for the series, how that relationship would have gone. What would have happened if, let's say, O'Hare leaves and Tomita stayed as Takashima? What was the relationship going to be like with Sheridan? One of those great what ifs. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. I really like to find out an explanation about that. If you know anything about, and Sinclair's on the elevator, he gets stuck, timely enough, because there is a shapeshifter about. And I'm not talking about Odo shapeshifter. I'm talking about somebody with a thing that makes them look like a shapeshifter. I'm assuming you've already seen the pilot. So if you are listening to this and going, well, you're dropping spoiler alerts, I'm assuming you've already watched it. And this is a test run anyway, so. And here is the introduction of Ambassador Kosh in the encounter suit. And here is a big problem I have. Okay? Why is it that, and here goes the alarm. How did somebody get in his suit? I firmly believe some of the Vorlons were kind of anxious. And this was all a plan to bring Sinclair, to make sure they actually paid it off, to where Sinclair follows his path as being Valen. And that, and they kind of back off at the last minute because they find a way to work themselves out. I don't know if this was a test to see if Sinclair was up to it and all that.
Maybe not. We just got a reply from the Vorlons.
Now, the sick bay here, or I should say med bay, looks similar to what Franklin had, although this is a lot more simpler than the one Franklin had, but the basic concepts are there. Yeah, the sliding doors and all of that. I think, though, that during the series you didn't have, the doors stayed open pretty much in med bay when Franklin was there. And this is the interesting thing about Sinclair turning off all the recorders and such, and basically bending the rules, or essentially breaking the rules to find out what was going on, which eventually, of course, revealed that it made it look like he was the one that did it. And I think the Vorlons knew this was going to happen, and I think that's the reason why you had the revelation, because they wanted to take... They were kind of nervous about the whole thing. So they wanted to take Sinclair and, quote-unquote, try him for trying to kill Kosh, to where they would protect him and kind of give him the whole, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. So we'll have you show up and, you do your role of eventually playing Valen and all that, but I'm kind of glad they went the way they did. So many... This clearly shows late 80s, early 90s television production, because it's just basically somebody in a flashlight opening the door. Picture tube TV, the curvature. This dates it pretty well. And of course there's the setting up about that they don't entirely trust Garibaldi. Garibaldi has a bit of a track record, and this is the thing that sets Babylon 5 apart from Star Trek. Hell. Your network may be experiencing issues. Please try again later. Great. Why am I doing that? Okay. We're going to end it right there. Like I said, this was a test run, and I think I know what the problem is. So I'm going to end it there. This is simply a test. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and set it, and probably Wednesday I'm going to redo this. I'm going to do some notes and such. But this is just a test. And we had some buffering. Let me try it again to see what happens. I think I know what the problem is. I've got a tablet on the same frequency as same frequency. Stupid me. Ugh. Let's see what happens here. I'll see if it goes back on. If not, here we go. Okay, we're back going. We'll keep going. Well, no, it's not. Let me just end it right there, and I will say this. Next time I do this, I'm going to redo it. And I'm going to have my book out. I have all of the Babylon 5 books that Jane Killick did a few years back, the season books, and I'm going to have them handy. What I'll do is I'll read over them, and then we'll do it, and I'll kind of drop some observations and such, and maybe drop some knowledge. So this was simply a test, folks. We didn't get through it all. I'm going to have to fix some things. But, and I could always just do the old school way of doing in DVDs, so I still have DVDs. But let me give you a little hint of how I did it. I actually bought a remote for my old PlayStation 2, and I put this on my small TV that I have beside my desk because I actually have a regular DVD player. But now I realize I've got a portable DVD player that I can plug into the TV and make it work like that. But I don't want to get rid of the PlayStation 2, so because occasionally I don't do much gaming, and I'm not one of these people that have to have the absolute newest thing. So until I can find a PlayStation 3 or 4 dirt cheap and find some games dirt cheap, I'm sticking around with the old school PlayStation 2 to occasionally pop in Madden and all that and whatnot, because I like my sports games. That's the only video games I like. I know a lot of you going, well, don't you like such and such? I've never been big on those things. But I'm going to end it here. Thank you for listening. This is just a test. Let me stress, this is just a test. The full-blown one will come next time. What I'll do is I'll probably just record it, do a voice recording, and then just simply upload it. So that may save some bandwidth and all that. So thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a great weekend, and be back when we actually do a proper run-through of this series. So thank you very much once again, and good night, good luck, and may the good news be yours.